All right, here we go. Monday, Sports Bet Betting Insight today. Pauly and Teddy. All the betting news you need to know in less than 20 minutes. I'm at Real Sports Bet on Twitter. He's at Teddy_Covers. College football starts Saturday. 2 games. We'll get to that later in the week, but it's finally here with college football. Rob Vino to talk Pac-12 this week as well. We'll recap what happened in the NFL preseason in the final segment, and we have Monday Night Football tonight, ESPN. The Ravens and the Colts. Big move on the side and a big move on the total. Bad beats, bad bets, bad for the books. Vicious beat Saturday. Braves minus 160. 3-0 top of the ninth. 2 outs, nobody on. You guessed that they blow the game. Rockies get 3 in the ninth, score 2 in the 10th, and win 5-3. They sweep the 4-game series from Atlanta as they just finished a stretch of playing 44 games against teams with a winning record and crushed it well above 500 during that stretch.
Yeah, and we probably should use the Moose photograph for this one, because when you have a 3-0 lead, you're minus 160, you're the chalk for the game. You're up 3-0 in the ninth. You have 2 outs and nobody on. You're supposed to cash that ticket just about every time. Instead, double, single, 3-run score tie in the ninth, 2 more in the 10th. Atlanta, minus 160. That's a choke job. Bad beat for Braves backers on Saturday. No question, Pauly.
Yep. And the Rockies numbers 30-14 during that treacherous schedule. Not only a half game out of first. Friday, the Astros minus 150. I had the Astros in pocket. They led 3-2 in the ninth. Runner thrown out, trying to score on a double. Called out, overturned on replay. I didn't see how they were able to overturn that on replay. Not clear evidence he was safe. In any event, they change it, ruled safe. Walk-off home run in the 10th. The A's win. They also won Saturday, lost yesterday. An amazing story. They were 60-1 at William Hill at the All-Star break to win the division. 60-1. They're only a game back now. And Friday, the Yankees-Jays game over 8.5. 7-5 in the 7th. It's a winner. Whoops. Rain delay called after 7 innings. You don't get the cash. That's a refund.
Yeah. And then honestly, I think that's the worst rule in sports betting. And the rule exists just to avoid confusion, because bookmakers didn't want to explain, no, well, the total's decided, but the side wasn't, so therefore we got to refund these and not refund those. The only reason overbets don't cash in rainouts is so the bookmakers don't have to explain it to newbies. It's a bad rule. It'll burn you once or twice a year. Certainly burned you with the Yankees-Jays over on Friday night when they scored 12 and it's only the 7th. That's supposed to be a winner. Instead, it was a push.
All right, so bad bets. Winner of the play of the day winner and a loser. There was the loser. Bills-Browns over 38.5-43. This was tough. Everything we wanted. Quarterback battle. Both teams. A lot of passes, although they couldn't get a first down when McCarron was in there. A missed field goal, a missed extra point. 19-17 final. Saints from 3 up to 5.5. They lost by 5. Raiders, how about this move? 3-point dogs went up 2.5-point favorites and lost 19-15. Under came in there. Big move on the under, 42.5 down to 39. And 49ers Texans over 41 up to 43, 16-13 final. All losers.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't understand all the Saints money bet up to 5.5. Drew Brees didn't play. Taysom Hill played. Taysom Hill was not good, and that's putting it mildly. He put the ball on the ground. It felt like every other time he had it. A couple of lost fumbles and turnovers doom New Orleans in that ball games. Once again, Arizona wins a game in which they get outstatted. The Raiders and the Rams, that was an interesting one because the Rams really didn't care at all. Unfortunately,
neither did the Raiders.
Matter for Raiders backers because A, the Raiders didn't care that much more, and B, they certainly didn't execute very well. L.A. gets the win. The books keep all of that Raider money, all of that Saints money, and all of that money for the Bills-Brown overs. Those were very good results for the house.
Great quote from Gruden after the game. He went for 2 in the fourth quarter when they were down 1. They asked him why. He says, the last thing I wanted was overtime, of course. Bad for the books. Diamondbacks yesterday, 185 up to 210. Beat the Friars. Yankees 230 up to 270. Happ now 4-0 as a Yankee. Easy win there. Astros, bet them again, still strong on the road, although they avoided the sweep. 133 up to 155. They won 9-4. Chiefs plus 2.5. Went off the favorite, laying 2.5. What a pass by Mahomes. 70-yard touchdown and triple coverage to Hill. They win 28-14. There was a pick 6 in there. Raiders, Rams under, as I mentioned, and Bears, Broncos over 41 up to 43.5. Bears were down big in that game. 2 late scores to get the money and to put it over the total.
Yeah. A couple of sportsbet pat on the backs from these results here. Certainly, J.A. Happ getting another win for the Yankees. We told you about how well the starters who were traded at the deadline are doing with their new teams. That's continued since we showed it to you. Happ, another win for the Yankees over the weekend. And, I mean, you talk about Mahomes and that pass. Talk about a tale of two halves with KC and Atlanta. Atlanta dominated that first half. We'll talk about that a little bit more later in the show. But second half, when point spreads are decided, was all Kansas City. Falcons starters were better, but Mahomes hit that pass, and the Chiefs' backups were a lot better than those of the Falcons. That's certainly not a great result for bookmakers here in Las Vegas or offshore.
All right, IFBC weekend, Friday and Saturday at the Nugget. Teddy, you'll be there.
Yeah, Sunday too. It's going to be Friday, Saturday,
Nice.
Sunday. Friday's a meet and greet. Saturday and Sunday, we have panels, an extended session of panels on Saturday, and then more on Sunday as well, a shorter slate on Sunday so you can get out and enjoy the pool a little bit. Chance to celebrate the new football year with the SBR pros, social media followers, SBR staff, and well-known figures from the sports betting and sports media landscape. Who's going to be there? Clay Travis, Jason Whitlock, Jim Fossil, the former Giants head coach, will be there. If you're still not an SBR pro, make sure to check the SBR website and find out all the many advantages this program offers. Remember, for those of you who will not be able to attend, SBR will stream the conference live. Don't miss it. We'll share the links in our show through our social media accounts, so stay tuned. I'll be speaking on Saturday on one of the panels. Pauly, I believe you'll be there as well. Look forward to seeing as many of you as we can this coming weekend.
When I think sports betting, I think it's Jason Whitlock, like we all do. Monday Night Football, here we go. ESPN. Ravens are now 2-43 the total at the Colts. Heavy money for Baltimore and the over. Indy opened the favorite, and the total was 40.5. 10 straight wins straight up in the preseason for Harbaugh. You gotta love that staff and the fact with their quarterback rotation coming off the blowout win against the Rams. You got RG3 auditioning for a job. Jackson played well last time out. Flacco pissed off with all the Jackson comments. He played well last week. So a lot to like with the Ravens. And we'll see here with Reich. Although Reich didn't like, he apologized, basically saying too many fights here on practice.
Yeah. Let's start with 10-0 straight up. That's meaningful. This is the coach and John Harbaugh who legitimately cares about W's in August. Certainly when you look at the Ravens quarterback rotation with guys like Lamar Jackson coming in the second half, who's already shown signs, RG3, et cetera. It's a winning QB rotation for preseason. And you read the comments. I mean, you talk about that fight, and they were brawling in camp. These two teams had joint practices. Yeah, Frank Reich, I'm not very happy about that. I'm very disappointed in that. You know, we talk about that's not what Colts fans need out of this team. We're professional football players. We're not fighters. We're not in the MMA, blah, 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 blah. More with Reich. I was very disappointed, led to a sloppy practice, at least on offense. So I'm disappointed from that. We have to learn from that. Meanwhile, John Harbaugh is like, his quote, it's beautiful. It cracks me up. Is this a healthy obsession that we all have with fights and training camp practices? It's really nothing, much ado about nothing. It got broken up pretty quickly, and we're moving on. I mean, what happened? It started with a couple of guys getting locked up on a punt return. There's a handful of brawls, but I think Harbaugh's got it right. You're beating up each other for weeks on end. When you get a chance to beat up somebody else, it happens sometimes in August. I would not put much into those brawls between these two teams. I don't think there's a lot of hate between the Colts and the Ravens right about now.
What are you hearing on Luck tonight? Whole half, most of the first quarter? What is kind of big here now that he missed all of last season? Want to get him some playing time?
Yeah, I mean, the Colts used all four of their quarterbacks against Seattle in week one. You know, Luck 6 of 9, 64 yards, no touchdowns, no picks. He was sacked once, so we did take a hit. Jacoby Brissett came in. He only threw for 35 yards on his 8 pass attempts. Philip Walker had 8. Brad Kaya had 4. So we have a legitimate situation here where neither coach has given us a whole lot of info about what they want to do with the starters tonight. They are expected to play, get more playing time in this ball game than they did in week one, but neither coach has given us a whole lot of actual factual information that we can use for betting. One thing worth noting, from an injury standpoint, the Ravens are really healthy right now. Compared to think about last year in training camp, what Baltimore looked like. They were banged up beyond belief. This year, basically, the coaches have their pick of which second stringers and third stringers they want to use tonight. That's not the case for Indy. Indy's had a good handful of injuries in recent week amongst the young guys, and most noticeably, the offensive line has become a little bit thin in recent weeks with the injuries. That's a major concern for Indianapolis tonight.
NFL weekend, this will be the play of the day coming up in a second. NFL weekend recap, Giants all over the Lions, 30-17, went over. Total yardage 299 to 308. Detroit won the battle there. Not much out of the quarterback. Stafford threw 5 passes, nothing for Eli.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this game, in terms of what it means for the regular season, basically very little. That being said, it's 2 games in a row where Detroit said, we need to play physical in the trenches. We need to push people around on the offensive line. We got to get the running game going. We got to, the whole concept Matt Patricia is trying to do is we're going to play physical football. Lions didn't play physical football week 1. They didn't play physical football week 2. That has to be a concern going into their week 3 dress rehearsal game. If we continue to see Detroit struggling at the point of attack, the market will crash on the Lions over the course of the next 7 days.
All the money for Kansas City. Again, 2.5-point dogs went off 2.5-point favorites. They win by 14. The play of the week, Mahomes, the long touchdown to Hill, and a pick 6 there late to seal it with Kansas City getting the win. And what's that, 6 straight preseason losses for Dan Quinn.
Yeah. The Falcons are clearly showing that they don't care. That being said, Atlanta starters dominated the game. They absolutely dominated the game, except for that they failed on a pair of 4th down conversions when they were in scoring range. They were going for the touchdown. They didn't want to settle for 3, and they got stuffed on 4th down twice, which left the door open for Mahomes' incredible pass and the big second half from that KC QB rotation. Chad Henne, Matt McGloin really played well after halftime for Kansas City. Falcons may have some depth concerns. It's certainly showing in the preseason, and Dan Quinn once again showing that he does not care one iota about the final score of preseason games.
Carolina beat Miami, and Buffalo and Cleveland. Buffalo gets the win, and McCarron, they went 3 and out all 4 possessions when he was in there, then got hurt. How about it's going to be Peterman or Allen to start week 1, it looks like. Well, why? I can't imagine he's ready with that injury. Not that, he was struggling anyways. So that a big ticket's going to cash there. Peterman, I think, was 9-1 offshore to be the starter week 1 against the Ravens. And right down the field for the Browns to start when they play with tempo and go kind of hurry up, play with some rhythm. And who knows, more weapons are coming with Gordon. They might sign Des Bryant.
Sure. Let's start with Carolina, Miami. Certainly the thing that stood out to me in this game, you can say the Panthers offense. I'm going to say the Dolphins defense. It's 2 weeks in a row that Miami starting defense has been absolutely lit up. Carolina, 6.8 yards per play in a preseason games. Touchdown drives of 80, 85, 92, and 61 yards. Miami's defense has not played well in either preseason game. They didn't play well this weekend either. And certainly, when you're talking about Buffalo and Cleveland on Friday night, I'll just put it this way. I'm glad I bet my Bills season under 6.5 before the start of the preseason. The Bills QB play, hey, they got the win, they got the cover. Their defense played all right, but you can already see the QB concerns for Buffalo, throw in some offensive line injuries. And I've got my major question marks about Buffalo being able to be competitive after being a playoff team last year.
Win total already down to 5.5 at the South Point here in Vegas. How about that? Arizona plus the points. They beat the Saints outright 20-15. Bradford played well, and Rosen got some protection this time, was okay as well. The Saints couldn't do much on offense.
Yeah, and what you're seeing in a lot of these games, and certainly the mainstream commentators for this game, like, oh, look how much better Josh Rosen was week 2 than week 1. Yes, Josh Rosen was better because the offensive line in front of him was better. He was playing with starters instead of backups. Oftentimes in these games, you'll see the backup come in, and he'll make some noise against second and third string defenders. They go, oh, look at the backup. The backup's really good. Then you see him the next week against the starters, and he stinks. That wasn't the case for Rosen. against the Saints, but New Orleans -4 in turnovers. How about this? 2 games for Arizona in the preseason. They're already +7 in turnover margin. They might need that for Steve Wilkes' squad in order to continue winning games and covering point spreads in September and beyond.
2 ugly games Saturday on the all the games are on NFL Network. The Vikings lost at home to Jacksonville. Bortles should have thrown 2 or 3 picks in that game. Vikings lost a ton of guys. Vikings have been a mash unit with all these injuries, especially on the offensive line. Game stayed under, wasn't even close. And the Rams no one played in that game for the Rams and the Raiders. That game was ugly too and low scoring in the 19-15 final.
Yeah. We can put it this way. For Jacksonville, Minnesota, the offenses were combined 4 of 26 on third down. You talked about the ugly pick for Bortles and another one that, 3 Vikings defenders touched before it hit the ground. But Minnesota's offense wasn't a whole lot better. Kirk Cousins, twice now that Cousins has struggled. Different system than he was in Washington. Different offensive line. Just saying, that Minnesota defense looks great. The offense, back-to-back showings. I've got my concerns, but not too many concerns. I think Minnesota will be fine.
I scored 42 points 2 weeks ago. I mean, what's that like with that?
There were issues on the offense.
Dallas 21-13. Driscoll played well. Barkley played well. That got crazy in the second half there. And Denver and the Bears was a good game. You had Chicago rallying late. How about Paxton Lynch? Oh, my God, it's over. Booed off the field by the fans. Mr. Irrelevant has now passed him on the depth chart. Chad Kelly, that is something. And Denver had a nice halftime lead in that one. But the Broncos don't get the money as the Bears come in through the back door.
Yeah. Okay, let's start with Cincinnati. Andy Dalton, he wasn't good last year. He wasn't good the year before. Andy Dalton saw extended time against Dallas, and he wasn't good in that game either. This is definitely a concern for me for Cincinnati because if Dalton's no good, I don't know where their offense comes from. Dallas clustered, starting to see some injuries on the offensive line. Travis Frederick missed Saturday's game. He's got a neck stinger, and Zach Martin left that game with a leg injury. Not necessarily considered serious, but something bettors should be aware of.
Chargers Seahawks play of the day winner, 24-14. That was an under. Again, Carroll, remember he's 34-14, but 0-2 ATS this year. It's not the same quarterback rotation. There's not much behind Wilson. Offensive line issues, can't run the ball. So much so that according to reports, they offered a second-round pick to the Colts for Brissett.
Yeah, Brissett's worth something for Seattle. And that offensive line now, it's twice we've seen them there. It's going to be a problem for Seattle. It's been a problem. It's been a problem for years. It still has not been addressed appropriately. And the Seahawks, they're certainly their preseason backers, have seen it in each of the first 2 games. Pete Carroll's long-term track record, no good. And I just want to touch on Chad Kelly for a minute. Paxton Lynch, yeah, it's probably a decent chance that the guy gets cut. A guy who everyone traded up and was, can't miss prospect. He's been awful in 2 preseason games so far.
Oh, yeah, you got to cut him. You can't have a first-round pick as a third string and Mr. Irrelevant's the backup, please. Money time, play of the day, Monday Night Football. You want the side or the total?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's only one NFL game on tap tonight. You've already missed the best of the number in both areas. But honestly, Baltimore, you have a coach who's 10-0 straight up. You have a good quarterback rotation. If you need action on this game, Ravens -2. You're not getting the best of the number. This is an action play only. But, boy, I don't disagree with the markets here. Baltimore is the better of these 2 teams, and Baltimore has shown they care about winning games in August. Take the Ravens -2. That's our play of the day.
All right, looking forward to this week. Rob Vino to preview the Pac-12 coming up later in the week. Thursday, we get to week 3, dress rehearsal, preseason, a couple college games to go over, both on television. One's on ESPN, as we have 2 games to bet on Saturday, so we'll run through that on Friday's show as well. We'll talk to you tomorrow. SportsBit, Betting Insight today. I'm at Real SportsBit on Twitter. He's at Teddy_covers all the betting news you need to know in less than 20 minutes. Low Shack in the Bag coming up next. Thanks to the crew.